the roles of a Scrum Master and product owners have a major decreasing shelf life. But the reality is, it goes way beyond those roles. Let's talk about everyone, anyone involved in knowledge work. In part one, I named something I called Scrum Devolution, the quiet redistribution of the Scrum Master's authority to take back to the org, to the tools, and to the systems. Facilitation got automated, the meeting got optional, the role got absorbed. In part two, I showed the same thing happening to product owners, strategy going up to leadership, execution going down to AI. The middle, the translation layer, the person who carries context between business and engineering, totally collapsing. Now, those weren't two separate stories. They were the first two chapters of the same story, and it's bigger than either role. The middle layer of knowledge work is collapsing. Every role that existed to carry context, coordinate work, or execute repeatable structured tasks is being squeezed by the same forces. AI from below, execution consolidation from above. This episode is about who that hits next and what replaces it. Let's walk through it. Business analysts. Your job is to gather requirements, document current state, identify patterns in data, and translate business needs into something a team can act on. AI does data analysis faster than you can open a spreadsheet. It writes requirements documents from a recorded stakeholder conversation. It identifies patterns across datasets you'd need a week to review. Structured output layer of the BA role, the part that produces documents, is already automatable. What's left is the judgment to know which questions to ask and which stakeholder is lying to you about what they actually need. You track dependencies, you flag risks, you generate status reports, you maintain the schedule. AI does all four of those things today. Not theoretically. Jira automation, for example, catches schedule slippage. AI agents flag cross-team dependency risks. Status reports write themselves from ticket metadata. The project manager whose value was, I know where everything is, loses that edge when the system knows where everything is and updates it in real time. Release train engineers. You coordinate across teams. You run PI planning. You manage program-level risks and dependencies. Most of that coordination is structured information flow. Blocked, what's at risk, which teams need to sync. AI agents can surface that across an entire portfolio faster than any human can compile it. The RTE, who's a human router of program context, faces the same squeeze the Scrum Master did. Software engineers. This one's uncomfortable. Anthropic published their own research on agentic coding trends. The data is clear. AI writes code. It writes tests. It debugs. It refactors. Junior and mid-level engineers whose primary output is write the code someone else specified are watching that specification to code pipeline get shorter every month. Senior engineers who review, architect, and make judgment calls about system design, still essential. But the pyramid underneath them is shrinking. Here's the common thread across all of these. The execution layer disappears. What stays is judgment, the ability to see the whole board, the ability to know which problem actually matters, the ability to make the call. The data is ambiguous and the stakeholders disagree. This isn't just my observation. The enterprise world is converging on a word for what comes next. PwC published a workforce redesign report describing what they call the hourglass organization. Wide at the top, wide at the bottom, and thin in the middle. Fewer mid-tier specialists, more AI-literate generalists who can orchestrate across functions. They're calling it the rise of the generalist. Fold AI, one of the largest talent intelligence platforms, named AI Orchestrator the most important job of 2026. Anthropic's own agentic coding research describes the developer's role evolving from person who writes code to orchestrator of agent teams, not replacing engineers, redefining what the job is. Nathaniel Whitmore on the AI Daily Brief has been tracking what he calls zero human company experiments, startups built from day one around small teams managing swarms of AI agents. Not science fiction, operating businesses. And Julia McCoy from firstmovers.ai put it plainly, AI gives one person the leverage that used to require an entire corporation. Smart recruiters named Orchestrator the job title of the year. The word keeps showing up. Orchestrator. Not a rebrand of the Scrum Master, not a new certification, a fundamentally different job, one that requires you to decompose work for agents, review AI output, connect systems, and make judgment calls that no AI model can make for you. I want to get personal for a moment, because this shift means something that's specific to me. I spent my entire career being called a generalist, and not in a complimentary way. Before I ever touched Enterprise Agile, I packed blueberries on a farm as one of my first jobs. I worked at every station at McDonald's in high school. I was a lifeguard, a banquet waiter, a bartender in college, and a lot of other odd jobs throughout my life. My resume looked like someone who couldn't pick a lane. And meanwhile, the specialists, people with linear career paths, deep technical credentials, years in one domain, they were the safe hires. Got the callbacks, they got the offers, they got the raises. There's a funny scene in the movie Office Space, and Mike Judge embodies a comedic take of what it's like to work in tech. And the consultants in that asked, so what exactly do you do here? And they were auditing the company's performance and individuals on what kind of value they're bringing to the company. And so that's kind of how I felt on interviews, being asked what my focus was. Now, fast forward to 2026, PwC is calling for AI-literate generalists. The Hourglass org needs people who can decompose work, talk to anyone, see across systems, and make judgment calls in ambiguity. That's not a weakness anymore. That's the job description. Just senior developers who can architect microservices in their sleep, but can't run a stakeholder meeting, can't network across teams, can't see the business problem behind the technical ticket, can't explain to a non-technical executive why a migration matters. AI writes code now, doesn't build relationships, doesn't read the room. Every odd job I ever worked taught me how to read the room. Bartending taught me to listen to what people aren't saying. Selling office supplies door to door in the snow taught me that the customer's first objection is never the real objection. Working at every station at McDonald's taught me what cross-functional actually means. When the system breaks during a lunch rush, it breaks because of handoffs, not effort. Those weren't detours. They were training for a job that didn't have a name yet. But there is still hope even for the specialists. I want to be clear about something, because this is not a generalist win, specialist lose episode. The specialist who adds horizontal range becomes the most dangerous person in the room. The senior engineer who learns to orchestrate AI agents, communicate across teams, and see the business context behind the technical ticket, unstoppable. A data scientist who can translate model output into a stakeholder conversation, irreplaceable. An IT service management practitioner who knows incident management inside out and can build the automation and self-healing that replaces the 2 a.m. bridge call, that person names their price. The framework is be it Orchestrator, and that means combining depth with range. Wherever you are on that spectrum, deep specialist or wide generalist, the move is the same. Add the dimension you're missing. I built an assessment to do just that. The assessment at agiletactics.ai/assessment is designed for exactly this. 5 minutes, it tells you whether you're operating as a facilitator, a builder, or an orchestrator. And more importantly, shows you where to add the range. And most companies aren't ready for this yet. Most orgs are still debating Copilot licenses, still running pilot programs, still asking, should we let people use ChatGPT at work? That's fine. That's where the window is. The people building orchestration skills now, learning to decompose work for AI agents, reviewing AI output critically, connecting systems that don't talk to each other, will step into these roles when the org chart catches up. And the org chart always catches up, just slower than the technology. If you wait until your company announces the reorg, you're 2 years behind the people who started building today. There's a concept called the Jevons paradox that applies here. When a resource gets cheaper, you don't use less of it. You use more. AI makes execution cheaper. So demand for work goes up. Citadel just announced they're hiring 18% more engineers and not fewer. But demand for mid-level execution, the human who does what AI now does, goes down. The work grows, the middle shrinks, and the people who orchestrate the work become more valuable, not less. And one more thing before I close. I've been spending my evenings building something, a personal AI system that solves a real problem in my life. Not because I'm a developer, because the same orchestration skills I use during the day, decomposing work into pieces, directing AI agents, reviewing output, connecting systems, let me build things at night that I couldn't have built alone. Turned a product idea into Drew stories, pointed AI agents at them, and started shipping. More on that when it's ready. But I mentioned it because it's the proof of the thesis. Orchestration isn't a corporate buzzword. It's a capability. And it works whether you're managing a portfolio of agile teams or building a side project at your kitchen table. The future of your career isn't decided by your title. It's decided by what you can orchestrate. Take the Agile AI Readiness Assessment at agiletactics.ai/assessment. 5 minutes, 3 archetypes, a concrete starting point for wherever you are right now, whether you're a generalist who's been told you're scattered or a specialist who's been told you're safe. Neither of those stories is true anymore. The only story that matters is the one you write next. I'm Danny Liu. This is Career Optional. See you next time.